friends. Thank you for joining us this evening. I'm your host, Zen Garcia. Welcome, friends. I'm your host, Zen Garcia. This is Secrets Revealed here on Truth Frequency Radio. We are continuing our Genesis Revisited series, and I am joined by my good friend Rob Skiba as co-host. Rob, are you there, brother?
I am here, Zen. How are you?
Doing good, man. How's your day? And I don't know how the weather was there. It's kind of rainy here, so
yeah.
But I get a lot done during the winters.
Yeah, kind of rainy and miserable here.
Yeah, same here.
It was one of those
forces you to be inside.
Yeah, it was one of those days where it didn't even really feel like waking up. It's just like,
yeah.
What's the point?
Yeah, right on. Yeah, even my cat didn't go outside today.
Yeah, man, boy, wow. I posted the show that we did, the pre-recorded show, and I streamed it live last night, and of course it ran on TFR. But wow, I mean, the negative comments are just.
Oh my goodness!
It boggles my mind, dude. Like I really don't get it, and yeah, I shouldn't care, but I do care. You know what I mean? It's like I just want people to understand. Hey, all we're trying to do is help you, but
exactly.
Lead a horse to water, kind of thing. You can't make him drink. But wow, just man.
Yeah. I have had a lot of people reach out to me though. Must have had like 40 or 50 emails from people that are interested.
Wow.
And so, yeah, there are those, that I guess maybe not outspoken with regard to the comments, but that are quietly intrigued. And so I'm sending them information, and they're slowly getting set up on platform. And so hopefully we will have a positive effect, and really help to help others that may otherwise not have had the opportunity. So
yeah, well, yeah. I'm trying to think of where we left off. I believe we left off in Genesis 26 we haven't read yet, and Joshua 25, I think. Does that sound about right to you?
Yeah, I can tell you where I am with the Targum here in just a second. Section 6. Yep, I think so. Yep.
Okay.
So we'll let you catch up since I did a lot of the reading in the end.
Yeah, I listened to the tail end of our show the last one we did. Wow, a lot of cool stuff about the rod and the garments and all that.
Right.
Very.
Yeah, I even saw some commentary that people thought that especially the last 30 minutes that would be a whole study in and of itself. And so,
no doubt. Yeah, I could certainly see that. Well, I think we've lagged behind a bit in Joshua. Last I remember was reading Joshua 24, and I think in Genesis we are. It was the birthright, right? That was sold.
Yes.
And
now we're to the generations, though.
Well, yeah, Genesis 26 it was in the days of Abraham, and Isaac went to Abimelech, king of the Philistines. So it's Isaac going to Abimelech, the king of the Philistines. Well, let me go ahead and read Joshua 25 and see where that takes us, I guess.
Sounds good.
Okay. Joshua 25. And it was at that time that Abraham again took a wife in his old age, and her name was Keturah, from the land of Canaan. And she bare unto him Zimram, Jokshan, Medan, Midian, Ishbak, and Shuach, being 6 sons. And the children of Zimran were Abihan, Molech, and Nirim. And the sons of Jokshan were Sheba and Dedan, and the sons of Medan were Amida, Joab, Gochi, Elisha, and Nachshak. And the sons of Midian were Ephah, Epher, Hanak, Abida, and Eldah. And the sons of Ishbak were Mekiro, Beodia, and Tador. And the sons of Shuach were Bildad, Mamdad, Munam, and Meban. All these are the families of the children of Keturah, the Canaanitish woman, which she bare unto Abraham the Hebrew. And Abraham sent all these away and gave them gifts, and they went from his son Isaac to dwell wherever they should find a place. And all these went to the mountain at the east, and they built themselves 6 cities in which they dwelt unto this day. But the children of Sheba and Dedan, children of Jokshan, with their children did not dwell with their brethren in their cities, and they journeyed and encamped in the countries and wilderness unto this day. And the children of Midian, son of Abraham, went to the east of the land of Cush, and they there found a large valley in the eastern country, and they remained there and built a city, and they dwelt therein. That is the land of Midian unto this day. And Midian dwelt in the city which he built, and he and his 5 sons, and all belonging to him. And these are the names of the sons of Midian, according to their names in their cities: Ephah, Epher, Kanak, Abida, and Eldah. And the sons of Ephah are Methach, oh brother, here we go. Mishar, Avi, and Sunua. And the sons of Epher were Ephron, Zur, Eliram, and Medan. And the sons of Hanak were Reuel, Rechem, Azi, Aloshub, and Alad. And the sons of Abida were Chur, Milad, Kiruri, Molchi. And the sons of Eldah were Miker and Reba, and Malchia and Gabal. These are the names of the Midianites according to their families, and afterward the families of Midian spread throughout the land of Midian. And these are the generations of Ishmael, the son of Abraham, whom Hagar, Sarah's handmaid, bare unto Abraham. And Ishmael took a wife from the land of Egypt, and her name was Reba, and the same is Meribah. And Reba bare unto Ishmael Nabayuth, Kedar, Adbeel, Mibzam, and their sister Basmath. And Ishmael cast away his wife Reba, and she went from him and returned to Egypt to the house of her father, and she dwelt there. And she had been very bad in the sight of Ishmael and in the sight of his father Abraham. And Ishmael afterward took a wife from the land of Canaan, and her name was Malkuth, and she bare unto him Nishma, Duma, Masa, Kadad, Tima, Yitur, Nephish, and Kidma. These are the sons of Ishmael, and these are their names, being 12 princes according to their nations. And the families of Ishmael afterwards spread forth. And Ishmael took his children and all the property that he had gained, together with the souls of his household and all belonging to him, and they went to dwell where they should find a place. And they went and dwelt near the wilderness of Paran, and their dwelling was from Havilah unto Shur, that is before Egypt, as thou goest toward Assyria. And Ishmael and his sons dwelt in the land, and they had children born to them, and they were fruitful and increased abundantly. And these are the names of the sons of Nebaioth, the firstborn of Ishmael: Mind, Send, Mayon. And the sons of Kedar were Alion, Kizem, Chamad, and Eli. And the sons of Adbeel were Chamad and Jabin. And the sons of Mibsam were Obadiah, Abed-Melech, and Yush. These are the families of the children of Reba, the son of Ishmael. And the sons of Mishma, the son of Ishmael, were Shemua, Zacharian, and Obed. And the sons of Duma were Kizad, Eli, Machmad, and Ahmed. And the sons of Massa were Milan, Mula, and Ebedadun. And the sons of Hadad were Azur, Minzar, Ebed-Melech. And the sons of Tima were Seir, Sadon, and Yakul. And the sons of Yetur were Mireth, Yaish, Alyo, and Pakuth. And the sons of Nephish were Abed, Temed, Abiyasaph, and Mur. And the sons of Kedma were Caleb, Takti, and Omer. And these were the children of Makuth, the wife of Ishmael, according to their families. All these are the families of Ishmael according to their generations, and they dwelt in those lands wherein they had built themselves cities unto this day. And Rebekah, the daughter of Bethuel, the wife of Abraham's son Isaac, was barren in those days, and she had no offspring. And Isaac dwelt with his father in the land of Canaan. And the Lord was with Isaac, and Arphaxad, the son of Shem, the son of Noah, died in those days, in the 48th year of the life of Isaac. And all the days of Arphaxad lived were 438 years, and she died. Some of this sounds really familiar to me, but I can't remember if it was the same thing that we just read in Jubilees.
Different story.
And I'm having trouble seeing if Abraham's still alive at this point. I guess we'll find out. I'll keep going. I'll keep going until Isaac goes to the Philistines, which will catch us up to Genesis. And in the 59th year of the life of Isaac, the son of Abraham, Rebekah, his wife, was still barren in those days. And Rebekah said unto Isaac, Truly I have heard, my lord, that thy mother Sarah was barren in her days, until my lord Abraham, thy father, prayed for her, and she conceived by him. Now therefore stand up, pray thou also to God, and he will hear thy prayer and remember us through his mercies. And Isaac answered his wife Rebekah, saying, Abraham has already prayed for me to God to multiply his seed. Now therefore this barrenness must proceed to us from thee. And Rebekah said unto him, But arise now thou also and pray, that the Lord may hear thy prayer and grant me children. And Isaac hearkened to the words of his wife. And Isaac and his wife rose up and went to the land of Moriah to pray there and to seek the Lord. And when they had reached that place, Isaac stood up and prayed to the Lord on account of his wife, because she was barren. And Isaac said, O Lord God of heaven and earth, whose goodness and mercies fill the earth, thou who didst take my father from my father's house and from his birthplace, and didst bring him unto this land, and didst say unto him, To thy seed will I give the land, and thou didst promise him, and didst declare unto him, I will multiply thy seed as the stars of heaven, and as the sand of the sea. Now may thy words be verified, which thou didst speak unto my father. For thou art the Lord our God, our eyes are toward thee to give us seed of men, as thou didst promise us, for thou art the Lord our God, and our eyes are directed toward thee only. And the Lord heard the prayer of Isaac, and the son of Abraham, and the Lord was entreated of him, and Rebekah his wife conceived. And in about 7 months after, the children could struggle together within her, and it pained her greatly that she was wearied on account of them. And she said to all the women who were then in the land, Did such a thing happen to you as to me? And they said unto her, No. And she said unto them, Why am I alone in this amongst all the women that were upon the earth? And she went to the land of Moriah to seek the Lord on account of this. And she went to Shem and Eber, his son, to make inquiries of them in this matter, and that they should seek the Lord in this thing respecting her. And she also asked Abraham. So Abraham's still alive. I must have read this before. And she also asked Abraham. So let me see here. A month ago, we were in Joshua 24. Look at the archive.
Possibly during the Enoch reading as well, because we did read a lot of some of these stories during.
Well, that's what's kind of confusing me, because I know there's a lot of overlap with the various texts, saying the same thing. Let me just do a quick look back on last week. Okay, so then on December 24th, that's the one I got to Joshua 24. January 4th, it doesn't say I read from Joshua, but that doesn't mean I didn't do it. Well, of course, you were reading from Legends of the Jews, which is almost identical to Joshua. Maybe that's why it sounds
similar.
It just seems like, because we're going to get to the part. Oh, okay, I did read. Okay, Joshua 25. Sorry, I read. So on January 7th,
okay.
I read Joshua.
You read up to that point.
5:27. Okay. Good grief, this all sounds so familiar. Sorry about that. So I read through 27 because I knew we got to Esau killing Nimrod. All right. Sorry about that. Now we're caught up. So we'll go to Joshua 28. I had to read all those names for nothing. Dang it. All right.
Fun for you.
Well, usually we talk about current events and whatever for the first 15 minutes of our shows anyway.
Yeah.
So we're back on target again, starting about 15 minutes. Right. Okay, Joshua chapter 28. And in those days after the death of Abraham, In the year the Lord brought a heavy famine in the land, and whilst the famine was raging in the land of Canaan, Isaac rose up to go down to Egypt on account of the famine, as his father Abraham had done. And the Lord appeared that night to Isaac, and he said to him, "Do not go down to Egypt, but rise and go to Gerar, to Abimelech, king of the Philistines, and remain there till the famine shall cease." Yes, this is what Genesis 26 is about. And Isaac rose up and went to Gerar, as the Lord commanded him, and remained there a full year. And when Isaac came to Gerar, the people of the land saw that Rebekah, his wife, was a beautiful appearance, and the people of Gerar asked Isaac concerning his wife, and he said, "She is my sister," for he was afraid to say she was his wife, lest the people of the land should slay him on account of her. And the princes of Abimelech went and praised the woman to the king, and he answered them not, neither did he attend to their words. But he heard them say that Isaac declared her to be his sister, so the king reserved this within himself. And when Isaac had remained 3 months in the land, Abimelech looked out the window, and he saw, and behold, Isaac was sporting with Rebekah his wife. And Isaac dwelt in the outer house belonging to the king, so that the house of Isaac was opposite the house of the king. And the king said unto Isaac, "What is this thou hast done to us, saying of thy wife, she is my sister? How easily might one of my great men of the people have lain with her, and thou wouldst then have brought guilt upon us?" And Isaac said unto Abimelech, "Because I was afraid lest I die on account of my wife. Therefore I said, she is my sister." At that time Abimelech gave orders to all his princes and great men, and they took Isaac and Rebekah his wife, and brought them before the king. And the king commanded that they should dress them in princely garments, and make them ride through the streets of the city, and proclaim before them throughout the land, saying, "This is the man, and this is his wife. Whoever touches this man or his wife shall surely die." And Isaac returned with his wife to the king's house, and the Lord was with Isaac, and continued to wax great, and lacked nothing. And the Lord caused Isaac to find favor in the sight of Abimelech, and in the sight of all his subjects. And Abimelech acted well with Isaac, for Abimelech remembered the oath and covenant that existed between his father and Abraham. And Abimelech said unto Isaac, "Behold, the whole earth is before thee. Dwell wherever it may seem good in thy sight, until thou shalt return to thy land." And Abimelech gave Isaac fields and vineyards, and the best part of the land of Gerar, to sow and reap, and eat the fruits of the ground, until the day of the famine should have passed by. And Isaac sowed in that land, and received 100-fold in the same year, and the Lord blessed him. And the man waxed great, and he had possession of flocks, and possession of herds, and great store of servants. And when the days of famine had passed away, the Lord appeared to Isaac, and said unto him, "Rise up, go forth from this place, and return to thy land, to the land of Canaan." And Isaac rose up and returned to Hebron, which is in the land of Canaan, he and all belonging to him, as the Lord commanded him. And after this, Shelach, the son of Arphaxad, died in that year, which is the 18th year of the lives of Jacob and Esau. And all the days that Shelach lived were 433 years, and he died. At that time, Isaac sent his younger son Jacob to the house of Shem and Eber, and he learned the instructions of the Lord. And Jacob remained in the house of Shem and Eber for 32 years. And Esau his brother did not go, for he was not willing to go, and he remained in his father's house in the land of Canaan. And Esau was continually hunting in the fields and bringing home what he could get. So did Esau all the days. And Esau was a designing and deceitful man, one who hunted after the hearts of men and inveigled them. And Esau was a valiant man in the field. And in the course of time, went as usual to hunt. He came as far as the field of Seir, the same is Edom. And he remained in the land of Seir, hunting in the field 1 year and 4 months. And Esau there saw in the land of Seir the daughter of a man of Canaan, and her name was Jehudith, the daughter of Beeri, son of Ephor, from the families of Heth, the son of Canaan. And Esau took her for a wife, and he came unto her. 40 years old was Esau when he took her. And he brought her to Hebron, the land of his father's dwelling place, and he dwelt there. And it came to pass in those days, in the 110th year of the life of Isaac, that is in the 50th year of the life of Jacob, in the year died Shem, the son of Noah. Shem was 600 years old at his death. And when Shem died, Jacob returned to his father to Hebron, which is in the land of Canaan. And in the 56th year of the life of Jacob, people came from Haran, and Rebekah was told concerning her brother Laban, the son of Bethuel. For the wife of Laban was barren in those days, and bare no children, and also all his handmaids bare none to him. And the Lord afterward remembered Abinah, the son of the wife of Laban, and she conceived and bare twin daughters. And Laban called the names of his daughters the name of the elder Leah, and the name of the younger Rachel. And those people came and told these things to Rebekah, and Rebekah rejoiced greatly that the Lord had visited her and that he had got children. Okay, so that should take us easily up to Genesis 26, maybe even 27. You want me to keep going here, or we're going to get ready to go to break?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, we still got some time.
To Genesis chapter 26. And there was a famine in the land beside the first famine that was in the days of Abraham. And Isaac went unto Abimelech, king of the Philistines, unto Gerar. And the Lord appeared unto him and said, Go not down unto Egypt, dwell in the land which I shall tell thee of. Sojourn in this land, and I will be with thee, and will bless thee. For unto thee and unto thy seed will I give all these countries, and I will perform the oath which I swear unto Abraham thy father. And I will make thy seed to multiply as the stars of heaven, and will give unto thy seed all these countries, and in thy seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed. Because that Abraham obeyed my voice, and kept my charge, my commandments, my statutes, and my laws. And Isaac dwelt in Gerar. And the men of the place asked him of his wife, and he said, She is my sister, for he feared to say, She is my wife, lest, said he, the men of the place should kill me for Rebekah, because she was fair to look upon. And it came to pass, when he had been there a long time, that Abimelech, king of the Philistines, looked out a window and saw, and behold, Isaac was sporting with Rebekah his wife. And Abimelech said, What is this thou hast done unto us? One of the people might lightly have lain with thy wife, and thou shouldest have brought guilt upon us. And Abimelech charged all his people, saying, He that touches this man or his wife shall surely be put to death. And Isaac sowed in the land, and received in the same year 100-fold. And the Lord blessed him. And the man waxed great, and went forward, and grew until he became very great. For he had possession of flocks, and possession of herds, and great store of servants, and the Philistines envied him. For all the wells which his father's servants digged in the days of Abraham his father, the Philistines had stopped them, and filled them with earth. And Abimelech said unto Isaac, Go from us, for thou art much mightier than me. And Isaac departed thence, and pitched his tent in the valley of Gerar, and dwelt there. And Isaac digged again the wells of water, which they digged in the days of Abraham his father, for the Philistines had stopped them after the death of Abraham, and he called their names after the names by which his father had called them. And Isaac's servants digged in the valley, and found there a well of springing water. And the herdsmen of Gerar did strive with Isaac's herdsmen, saying, The water is ours. And he called the name of the well Esek, because they strove with him. And they digged another well, and drove for that also, and he called the name of it Sitnah. And they removed from thence, and digged another well, and for that they strove not, and he called the name of it Rehoboth. And he said, For now the Lord hath made room for us, and we shall be fruitful in the land. And he went from thence to Beersheba. And the Lord appeared unto him that same night, and said, I am the God of Abraham thy father. Fear not, for I am with thee, and will bless thee, and multiply thy seed for my servant Abraham's sake. And he built an altar there, and called upon the name of the Lord, and pitched his tent there. And there Isaac's servants digged a well. And Abimelech went to him from Gerar, and Ahuzath, one of his friends, and Phicol, the chief captain of his army. And Isaac said unto them, Wherefore come ye to me, saying, Ye hate me, and have sent me away from you? And they said, We saw certainly that the Lord was with thee. And he said, Let there now be an oath betwixt us, even betwixt us and thee, and let us make a covenant with thee, that thou wilt do us no hurt, as we have not touched thee, and as we have done unto thee nothing but good, and have sent thee away in peace. Thou art now the blessed of the Lord. And he made them a feast, and they did eat and drink. And they rose up betimes in the morning, and sware unto one another, and Isaac sent them away, and they departed from him in peace. And it came to pass the same day that Isaac's servants came and told them concerning the well which they digged, and said unto him, We have found water. And he called it Skiba. Therefore, the name of the city is Beersheba unto this day. And Esau was 40 years old when he took a wife, Judith, the daughter of Beri the Hittite, and Bashemath, the daughter of Elon the Hittite, which were a grief of mind unto Isaac and Rebekah. That sounded familiar to me too, but I don't know if I had read that before. But anyway, that's pretty much what we just read in Joshua. Takes us up there. Joshua had a lot more detail, of course.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'll read the Targum, and then I want to read, well, when we come back, I'll read from something else that I found that confirmed the story we talked about last show. All right, we'll be right back, everyone.
Your partnership with Sacred Word Publishing goes further than the publishing of ancient manuscripts and weekly video content.
You also make a huge impact across the earth in orphanages in Myanmar, India, Uganda, and Kenya.
Your support is crucial for the development of the ecclesia of real truth seekers.
We thank you for joining us in hosting Secrets Revealed, Momentary Zen, the Digital Readers Club, Ask Me Anything series, and other shows that have helped lead so many to the truth of salvation.
To become even more involved, please visit patreon.com/sacredwordpublishing, where you can partake in exclusive, interactive, patron-only content and help us continue shining the light of love in this darkened world.
Arise.
Are the stories in the Bible true?
What if I told you that there are hundreds of confirming witnesses,
which give intricate detail to the stories in the Bible?
Have you ever found yourself deep in the rabbit hole with questions that no one seemed to have the answers to? Join us the second Friday of every month at 9 p.m. Eastern Time for our Ask Me Anything series with author and researcher Zen Garcia, as he sheds light on the mysteries which have us all searching together. Many truth seekers are constantly studying alone. But there is a place where we can come together. The Digital Readers Club is our online ecclesia meant for those who've forsaken churchianity, but still want the closeness of a family to study with. Join us every Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time to put together the puzzle pieces of truth scattered throughout the ancient scriptures.
The sun, moon, and stars, and imagine there's got to be planets like ours. So conceive of a face on the surface of Mars, so in need of a meaning and purpose we lost. And indeed they believe that they might be our gods, or that maybe with time we'll do right and evolve and eventually reach what they seek and then solve all the problems of man. But they really don't know that they fall, and the works of our hands are but just filthy rags. So we travel the lands to dig up our past time, our lapses, and with it are much of the facts. Some imagine that gods came in alien class.
All right, welcome back, everybody, for a second portion. I'm going to read chapter 25 from the Aramaic Targum, and then I'll pick up with, I had mentioned previously how I had remembered reading one other passage about the sword of Methuselah and some of the
Very cool.
information about that, and so I'll read that after this. These are the generations of Isaac bar Abraham. And because the appearance of Isaac, let me share my screen as well.
Cool. And what are you reading from?
This is the Targum, the Aramaic Targum.
Targum version, right. Genesis 26 or what?
Yeah, 25.
Oh, 25. Okay, cool.
Yeah. These are the generations of Isaac bar Abraham, and because the appearance of Isaac resembled the appearance of Abraham, the sons of men said, in truth, Abraham begat Isaac. And Isaac was the son of 40 years when he took Rebekah, the daughter of Bethuel the Aramite, who was of Padan Aram, the sister of Laban, the Aramite, unto him for a wife. And Isaac went to the mountain of worship, the place where his father had bound him. And Isaac in his prayer turned the attention of the Holy One, blessed be he, from that which he had decreed concerning him, who had been childless. And he was enlarged, and Rebekah his wife was with child, and the children pressed in her womb, as men doing battle. And she said, if this is the anguish of a mother, what then are children to me? And she went into the school of Shem, Rabbi, to supplicate mercy before the Lord. Jerusalem. And the children pressed in her womb, and she said, if such be the anguish of a mother, what now is life, that children are to be mine? And she went to supplicate mercy before the Lord in the Beth Midrash of Shem Rabbah. And the Lord said to her, 2 peoples are in thy womb, and 2 kingdoms from thy womb shall be separated, and one kingdom shall be stronger than the other, and the elder shall serve the younger, if the children of the younger will keep the commandments of the law. And the 270 days of her being with child were completed to bring forth, and behold, twins were in her womb. And the first came forth wholly red, as a garment of hair, and they called his name Esau, because he was born altogether complete, with the hair of the head, and the beard, and the teeth, and grinders. Jerusalem. And the first came forth wholly red as a garment of hair, and they called his name Esau. Afterward came forth his brother, and his hand had hold on the heel of Esau, and they called his name Jacob. And Isaac was the son of 60 years when he begat them. And the Lord grew, and the lads grew, and Esau was a man of idleness, to catch birds and beasts, a man going forth into the field to kill lives, as Nimrod had killed, and Hanok his son. But Jacob was a man peaceful in his words, a minister of the instruction house of Eber, seeking instruction before the Lord. And Isaac loved Esau, for words of deceit were in his mouth, but Rebekah loved Jacob. On the day that Abraham died, Jacob dressed pottage of lentils, and was going to comfort his father. And Esau came from the wilderness, exhausted, for in that day he had committed 5 transgressions. He had worshipped with strange worship. He had shed innocent blood. He had gone unto a betrothed damsel. He had denied the life of the world to come and had despised the birthright. And Esau said to Jacob, "Let me now taste that red pottage, for I am faint." Therefore he called his name Edom. And Jacob said, "Sell today, as on this very day, what thou wouldst hereafter appropriate, thy birthright unto me." And Esau said, "Behold, I am going to die, and in another world I shall have no life. And what then to me is the birthright, or the portion in the world of which thou speakest?" And Jacob said, "Swear to me today that so it shall be." And he swore to him, and sold his birthright to Jacob. And Jacob gave to Esau bread, pottage, and lentils. And he ate and drank and arose and went. And Esau scorned the birthright, and the portion of the world that cometh, Jerusalem. And he arose and went, and Esau despised the birthright, and vilified the portion in the world that cometh, and denied the resurrection of the dead. All right, so now I'm going to read from the legends of the patriarchs and the prophets. And this has a portion in it that confirms what we read from the legends of the Jews last show, and where we talked about the sword of Methuselah. Cool. And it does have an interesting passage in it that connects with it. So the following curious story is told of the brothers by the rabbi Eleazar. It is said that when Jacob and Esau were in their mother's womb, Jacob said to Esau, "My brother, there are two worlds before us, this world and the world to come. In this world men eat and drink and traffic and marry and bring up sons and daughters, but all this does not take place in the world to come. If you like, take this world and I will take the other." And Esau denied that there was a resurrection of the dead and said, "Behold, I am at the point to die. And what profit shall this birthright do to me?" And he gave over to Jacob in that hour his right to the other world. And therefore Esau and his descendants have no part or lot in paradise, and none are admitted there. It is also said that the religious predilections of the children were developed before they were born. On the words of Genesis, the children struggled together within her. A rabbinic commentator says that when Rebekah passed before a synagogue, then Jacob made great efforts to escape into the world, that he might attend the synagogue. And this is the meaning of the words of the prophet Jeremiah, when God says of Jacob, "Before thou earnest forth out of the womb, I sanctified thee." But whenever she went before an idol temple, Esau became excited and desired to come forth. When Esau was born, he had on his heel the likeness of a serpent, and his name indicates that he was closely connected with Satan, Samael. For says the Rabbi Isaiah, if you write the name Samael in Hebrew characters, you will find it be identified with that of Esau. For the four letters of Esau turned one way make Samael, and turned another way make Edom. Esau had also a serpent in his inside, coiled in his bowels.
That's weird.
Yeah, that is very weird. Esau was called Edom or red because, say some, he sucked his mother's blood before he was born. Or say others, because he was to shed blood. Or again, because he was born under the ruddy planet Mars. Or again, because he liked to eat his meat underdone and red. But the Targums say that Esau had red hair over his body like a garment before he was called Esau. The lads grew, and Esau was a man of idleness, to catch birds and beasts, a man going forth into the field to kill, as Nimrod had killed, and Anak his son. But Jacob was a man peaceful in his works, a minister of the school of Eber, seeking instruction before the Lord. And Isaac loved Esau, for words of deceit were in his mouth, but Rebekah loved Jacob. On the day that Abraham died, Jacob dressed pottage of lentils, and was going to comfort his father. And Esau came from the wilderness, exhausted, for in that day he had committed 5 transgressions. He had worshipped with strange worship. He had shed innocent blood. He had pursued a betrothed damsel. He had denied the life of the world to come, and he had despised his birthright. And Esau said to Jacob, "Let me now taste that red pottage, for I am faint." Therefore he called his name Edom. And Jacob said, "Sell to me today what thou wouldst hereafter appropriate thy birthright." And Esau said, "Behold, I am going to die, and in another world I shall have no life. And what then to me is the birthright, or the portion in the world of which thou speakest?" And Jacob said, "Swear to me today that so it shall be." And he swore to him, and sold his birthright to Jacob. And Jacob gave to Esau bread and pottage of lentils. And he ate and drank and arose and went. And Esau scorned the birthright and the portion of the world that cometh, and denied the resurrection of the dead. But according to certain rabbinic authorities, Esau sold his birthright, not only for the mess of lentils, but also for a sword that Jacob had, to wit, the sword of Methuselah, wherewith he had slain 1,000 devils. Esau had the garment which God made for Adam, on which were embroidered the forms of all the wild beasts, birds, and were on the face of the earth in their proper colors. This garment had been stolen by Ham from Noah in the ark, and had been given by him to Cush, who gave it to Nimrod. Esau killed Nimrod and took from him his painted dress, and thenceforth all the success in hunting which had attended Nimrod devolved upon Esau. The story of the blessing of Jacob and Esau has not become surrounded with many fables. The following are the most remarkable. Esau on that occasion went forth in such haste to catch the venison that he forgot to take with him Nimrod's garment, and therefore was not successful in hunting, as on former occasions. And Jacob took advantage of this forgetfulness to assume the embroidered coat. And when the meat was ready, and Isaac began to eat, thereof he was thirsty, and there was no wine for him in the house. So an angel was sent to him out of paradise, and took those are footnotes, and brought him the juice of the grape that grows there on the vine that was created before the foundation of the earth were laid. Isaac was so angry at having been deceived by Jacob that he was about to doom him to Gehenna, after he said, "Where is he that hath taken venison and brought it me, and I have eaten of all before thou earnest, and have blessed him?" But he paused to prepare his curse. And then God suddenly opened hell to him beneath his feet, and he looked into it and saw the abyss of fire and darkness, and his horror rendered him speechless. But when he recovered his voice, he resolved that no child of his should descend there, and therefore he added, "Yea, and he shall be blessed." So I can stop there with regard to the...
Well, right next, though, it's the Muslimans, which I assume is the Muslims, relate the history.
This actually talks about I'll continue. It's Rome and the contention with Israel, which is also part of some of the other stories. So I'll continue reading. The Muslimans relate the history of Esau and Jacob much as it stands in the book of Genesis. They add that the benediction of Esau was fulfilled in his having a son named Reuel, from whom sprang the Greek and Roman empires. This is also a rabbinical tradition, for the Talmudists say that Esau had a son named Eliphaz, who had a son Zepho, from whom Vespasian and his son Titus were descended, and thus they attribute the destruction of Jerusalem to the struggle of Esau to break the yoke of Jacob from off his neck. Esau is said by the rabbis to have had 4 wives, in imitation of Satan or Samael, as has been already related. Ali Laraj says that Esau made war with Jacob and was killed by him with an arrow. Jacob feared Esau, for Esau said in his heart, I will not do as Cain did, who slew his brother Abel in the lifetime of his father, after which his father begat Seth. But I will wait till the days of mourning for my father are accomplished, and then I will kill Jacob, and so I shall be the sole heir. And therefore Jacob went out only at night. During the day he hid himself away. And thus several years passed, and his life became intolerable to him. So his mother said, Thy uncle Laban, the son of Bethuel, has great possessions and is very old. Go and ask him to give thee his daughter. And if he consents, then tarry with him till thy brother's anger turn away. Jacob listened to the advice of his mother, and he fled away without letting Esau know. 5 miracles were wrought for the patriarch Jacob. At the time when he went forth from Beersheba, first the hours of the day were shortened, and the sun went down before its time, because the word desired to speak with him. Secondly, the 4 stones which Jacob had set for his pillow, he found in the morning had coagulated into 1 stone. Thirdly, the stone which, when all the flocks were assembled, the shepherds rolled from the mouth of the well, he rolled away with one of his arms. Fourthly, the well overflowed, and the water continued to flow all the days he was in Haran. The 5th sign in the country was shortened before him, so that in 1 day he went forth and came to Haran. And he prayed in the place where he rested, and took 4 stones of that place, and set them for a pillow, and went asleep. Of these stones, this is the history. They were 12 in number, and Adam had set them up as an altar. On them Abel had offered his sacrifice. The deluge had thrown them down, but Noah reared them once more. They had been again overthrown, but Abraham set them in their places, and on them built the altar on which to sacrifice Isaac. These 12 stones Jacob now found, and he placed them under his head as a pillow. But a great wonder was wrought, and in the morning the 12 stones had melted together into 1 stone. And finally, this stone, so ancient and with such a history, was carried to Scotland, by whom I do not know, where it was placed at Scone, and was used for the consecration of the Scottish kings. Edward I of England brought it to London, and it was set beneath the chair of the confessor, as the following lines inscribed on a tablet announce. I'm not going to read all that.
Lipsum
Yeah, that's maybe Latin or something, but it says the stone may now be seen in Westminster Abbey. And when Jacob, to return to our narrative, slept with his head on the pillow of the stones, he dreamed and beheld a ladder fixed in the earth, and the summit of reached to the height of heaven. And behold, the angels who had accompanied him from the house of his father ascended to make known to the angels on high, saying, Come, see Jacob the pious, whose likeness is in the throne of glory, and whom you have been Jesus to see. These were the 2 angels who had been sent to Sodom to destroy it, and had been forbidden to rise up to the throne of God again, because, say some, they had revealed the secrets of the Lord to the whole earth. because, say others, they had threatened in their own name to destroy the cities of the plain. Then the rest of the angels of God came down at the call of these twain to look upon Jacob, and the glory of the Lord stood above him. And he said to him, I am the Lord God of Abraham thy father, and the God of Isaac. The land on which thou art lying I will give to thee, and thy sons shall be many, as the dust of the earth, and shall become strong in the west, and in the east, and in the north, and in the south, and all the kindreds of the earth shall be blessed through thy righteousness, and the righteousness of thy sons. I'll just read a little bit more. When Jacob arrived at Haran, he saw a well in a field, and there were 3 flocks lying near it, because from that well they watered the flocks, and the great stone was laid upon the mouth of the well. And Jacob said to the shepherds, My brethren, whence are ye? They said, From Haran are we. And he said, Know ye Laban, son of Nahor? They answered, We know him. And he said, Hath he peace? They said, Peace, and behold, Rachel his daughter cometh with the sheep. And he said, Behold, the time of the day is great. It is not time to gather home the cattle, water the sheep. But they said, We cannot until all the shepherds be gathered, and then we can all together roll away the stone. And while they were speaking with him, Rachel came with her father's sheep, for she was a shepherdess at that time, because there had been a plague among the sheep of Laban, and but few of them were left, and he had dismissed his shepherds and had put the remaining flock before Rachel, his daughter. And then Jacob went nigh and rolled the stone with all the shepherds together, could scarce lift with one of his hands, and the well uprose, and the waters flowed, and the watered the sheep of Laban, his mother's brother. And it uprose for 20 years. And Jacob kissed Rachel, and lifted up his voice, and went and wept. And Jacob told Rachel that he was come to be with her father, to take one of his daughters. And then Rachel answered him, Thou canst not dwell with him, for he is a man of cunning. But Jacob said, I am more cunning than he. And when she knew that he was the son of Rebekah, she ran and made it known to her father. And when Laban heard the account of the strength of Jacob, his sister's son, and how he had taken the birthright and the order of blessing from the hand of his brother, and how the Lord had revealed himself to him in the way, and how the stone had been removed, and how the well had upflowed and risen to the brink, he ran and kissed him and led him into his house. Laban had 2 daughters. The name of the elder was Leah, and the name of the younger Rachel. I'll just finish this paragraph and I'll stop here, because I know we're ahead of the story. And the eyes of Leah were moist and running from weeping and praying before the Lord, that he would not destine her for Esau, the wicked. All right, I'll stop here with this particular story. But so what did you think about that information?
Yeah, very cool. Is there anything else that talks about Jacob slaying thousands of demons with that?
Not in that particular part of the story, but there's not anything other, just that one quick mention of the sword of Methuselah. But I thought it was pretty cool that at least there was a confirming witness, which I remember that there was.
Yeah.
And then the story of the garments too, the continuation of that. Yeah, here it is.
Yeah, slain that Jacob had to with the sword of Methuselah, wherewith he had slain 1,000 devils. That's pretty wild.
Yeah, so I guess Jacob had used it in battle.
Well, and if it's saying devils as in demons.
Demons, yeah.
Then that, well, I mean, that's the way I designed the sword of Methuselah in my video game, is
right.
that it could be used for the physical as well as against the spiritual.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think, also that the giants, because in the other tale, or one of the other, there's a footnote somewhere also about this particular sword. I think it might be in the Rabbi the Perkdi Rabbi Eleazar, because it does mention at the beginning of the story that This is, a tale from Rabbi Eleazar. But anyways, it mentions how, that sword was a killer of giants. And so maybe perhaps this account of it having slain 1,000 devils is in similarity that, the giants are possessed by the demonic forces of Legion and maybe are considered devils in some manner.
Fascinating. And there was also the deal with so as I understood with the stone is that there was an altar set up by Adam that was later destroyed, but Noah rebuilt it after the flood, and Abraham rebuilt it. But it said something about all the stones melting into one stone or something.
Yeah, when Jacob slept on it and had a dream. All right, we'll be right back, everyone, for second hour.
As a bookstore for truth seekers, it's our goal to make ancient manuscripts which were once held captive by secretive institutions available for public consideration. In our generation, where wisdom has increased as Daniel the prophet foretold, we have access to many of the testimonies our early church brethren were persecuted for preserving. After being hidden for centuries, these manuscripts have been leaked from various sources throughout the earth, and it's our goal to gather these sources into printable form to make available for all who seek the ancient way. If you're looking to deepen your studies of the biblical narrative, find these ancient manuscripts and more at sacredwordpublishing.com.
Many truth seekers are constantly studying alone. But there is a place where we can come together. The Digital Readers Club is our online ecclesia meant for those who've forsaken churchianity but still want the closeness of a family to study with. Join us every Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time to put together the puzzle pieces of truth scattered throughout the ancient scriptures. Every day, questions arise.
Are the stories in the Bible true?
What if I told you that there are hundreds of confirming witnesses?
which give intricate detail to the stories in the Bible.
Have you ever found yourself deep in the rabbit hole with questions that no one seemed to have the answers to? Join us the second Friday of every month at 9 p.m. Eastern Time for our Ask Me Anything series with author and researcher Zen Garcia, as he sheds light on the mysteries which have us all searching together.
Your partnership with Sacred Word Publishing goes further than the publishing of ancient manuscripts and weekly video content.
You also make a huge impact across the earth in orphanages in Myanmar, India, Uganda, and Kenya.
Your support is crucial for the development of the ecclesia of real truth seekers.
We thank you for joining us in hosting Secrets Revealed, Momentary Zen, the Digital Readers Club, Ask Me Anything series, and other shows that have helped lead so many to the truth of salvation.
become even more involved, please visit patreon.com/sacredwordpublishing, where you can partake in exclusive, interactive, patron-only content and help us continue shining the light of love in this darkened world.
All right, welcome back, everybody, for second hour. We were just discussing the sword of Methuselah and also the stone, which it's interesting that this stone seems to be the one that they anoint and have incorporated into the as far as crowning of all of the different royals there. Even I guess even Queen Elizabeth had that stone as part of her coronation, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, that is interesting. I mean, that's another one of those deep rabbit holes, and
right.
It was so strange, man. Back in the late 90s, from like 97 and 99, I was doing a ton of research on various artifacts like the Shroud of Turin and the Spear of Destiny and the Odessa cloth and all that stuff, the Holy Grail and whatnot, and the Knights Templar and everything. And at that time, and I was looking into cloning because I was Dolly the sheep time period.
Right,
and they were in the process of really working on the Human Genome Project, which was wrapping up, I think in 2000 or something like that. Whatever the case may be, like it didn't matter what I researched. Like literally everything I was researching in those days kept leading me back to Scotland, and specifically to Rosslyn Chapel in I think it's Edinburgh, Scotland. I don't remember the chapels in Edinburgh or whatever it was. Edinburgh, Scotland, and Rosslyn Chapel. Let's put it that way. Both of those, like every topic I was looking into, ultimately the rabbit trail led me there. And when I was looking into all that, and of course the European royals and all that, and this thing about the stone kept coming up too. I remember was it called the Philosopher's Stone or something? I don't remember. There was another name. They had a name for it. Does that sound familiar?
I'm not sure that it's the Philosopher's Stone, but I do remember that they do have a name for it. I just don't remember.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's interesting that this would almost seem like the origin story of it right here. The legends of the prophets.
Right. Yeah. And it's intriguing that it's mentioned in, here in the patriarchs and the prophets, and that the origin goes all the way back to Adam. Because in the Targum, the story is repeated several times. Like when you get to the sacrifice of Isaac, it does make mention that this is the altar that Adam built and that Noah had restored, and that this was the same one that Abraham had built to, prepare the sacrifice of Isaac. So all those connections.
It's people in the chat room are saying scone stone or stone of destiny.
Okay, yeah, that sounds interesting.
Sounds familiar.
Well, and that's what even that was mentioned in this story.
Yeah. But you had said in one of the previous shows that this document, the legends of the patriarchs and prophets, is it does mention that. Let me take that here. Scone, placed at Scone Stone. But you had made mention to me before, I think on one of these shows, that this particular text, the Legends of the Patriarchs and Prophets, draws from all kinds of different stuff, not just Hebrew.
Yes, all the mythologies of the world. Yeah,
it's fascinating stuff, and there really is something. I mean, I'm sure a lot of this stuff gets significantly embellished, but. It doesn't take a whole lot of research to figure out that throughout history, many of these artifacts have been sought after in recent times. 20th century. In fact, there was an episode of the TV series The Unit. You ever see that show? It's a show about special operations guys. I want to say it was in the final season, I think, where one of the main characters ended up. The special forces were tasked to do something to recover the Spear of Destiny, And and by the end of it, it's kind of like, it's one of the legend is like whoever owns the spear rules the world kind of thing.
Right.
And
right.
just the bloodlust for power kind of thing that was wrapped around it. Anyway, the character, he hid it away. Like he didn't want anybody to get, he was assigned to get it, and he didn't want anybody, so he hid it away. But it was actually a really, really cool episode. But yeah, there's a lot to that stuff. I mean, going back,
an intriguing artifact.
Knights Templar, right. And everything that the Knights Templar were doing, and the Shroud of Turin, man, I don't know where you stand on it, but I have become 100% convinced that that's a Polaroid snapshot of the resurrection. It's
and then it seems to show that the light entered into Yahushua and then radiated outward and burned the imprint of his physical likeness onto that shroud, and in a manner that cannot be replicated in any way today, which makes that occasion supernatural in occurrence, in my opinion.
Yeah, I totally agreed. I like I said, I was doing a lot of research on that back in the 90s, and I came across a book on the Shroud of Turin by Ian Wilson, who, when I looked into him, found out he only lived like 45 minutes away from me. So I was like, oh, man. So I contacted him and spent a lot of time talking with him. And
that's cool.
In addition to his book, I mean, the book is very convincing in and of itself, as is the research in general. But, talking to him, I mean, he was one of the guys that was there that actually physically touched the thing, took samples from it, analyzed it. And, he makes more than a compelling case. I mean, it's like a rock solid, forensic case that this can't be fabricated. This is a supernatural item here.
Mm-hmm.
And that there was actually some viable DNA on it. And as I recall, it was AB negative blood that was recovered from it. And so, at that time, I was writing a series. It was going to be one movie script, but it turned into a trilogy of movie scripts called the Omega Conspiracy, which I titled that before I ever knew or ever even heard of. Was it Dr. I.D. Thomas had written a book by the same title, The Omega Conspiracy. I guess he wrote it, I want to say probably in the 70s. I have a reprint of the book that I think was, the copyright is 2006. And so, when I first started my radio show, you can go back and listen to the archives. When I first started my radio show back in like 2010, I think it was, I was talking with L.A. Marzulli, and I made the comment that, I titled my script that, long before I.D. Thomas. And he's like, what, wait a minute, what? Because I.D. Thomas was apparently a mentor to L.A. Marzulli. Like they were friends. He's like, when did you say you wrote your script? I said 97 through 99. And he's like, no, Dr. Thomas's book has been out since the 70s. I'm like, well, I'm looking at my book.
Wow.
I'm like, it's copyright 2006. And that must be a reprint. I'm like, oh, okay. So he did. So I wasn't influenced by anybody. I just, Omega being the end, the end plan, looking for a catchy title. But when the script kept expanding and getting longer and longer, I realized it can't be one movie. It's got to be 3 movies. The first one being the Omega Plan, which set up the trilogy, and the last one being the Spear of Destiny. I didn't really have a title for the second one at the time, but I had written this script about cloning Jesus from the Shroud of Turin, using the blood.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Yeah, from the Shroud and from of course, you got to remember back at that time, like I said, the Human Genome Project was just in the beginning process of being, doing it at the time. And of course, Dolly the sheep and all that stuff that was coming out back then in the late 90s. So, I mean, if that movie could have been made at the time, it would have been real cutting edge for the time.
Right.
Yeah. So, I became convinced that, at that time, I thought that it would be the Antichrist, would be a clone of Jesus Christ. And
that's exactly my friend Dr. Joy. One of the premises of her book is that exact thing that you mentioned.
Well,
she believes it's going to play out like that.
Yeah, it's a reasonable thesis, especially when you look at some of the so-called elite out there and what their plans and objectives and things are.
Right.
After I became convinced that Revelation 17 and 13 and 9 and Micah chapter 5 and Matthew 24 give you all the details you need to know about the Antichrist, naming him about, that I became convinced, largely due to Tom Horn and Peter Goodgame's work, that Nimrod would be the Antichrist. And so I had, back in the 90s, established, at least in my mind, the likelihood that somebody's going to be cloned from the Shroud of Turin. What was I going to do with that information? And then the more I started thinking about it, I thought, it actually would make more sense that the false prophet would be the clone of Jesus, especially if you look, the false prophet does signs, wonders, and miracles, and what the thought occurred to me after reading in the Gospels, where the Pharisees came to John the Baptist and they asked him, "Are you the Messiah?" And he said, "No." And then they asked him, "Are you the prophet?" Capital P. And I'm like, wait a minute, then that means they're looking for two people. Now, as believers in Yeshua, we recognize that the prophet, capital P, likened unto Moses, spoken of in the Torah, is Yeshua, and that he is the Messiah. So we understand the prophet to be the Messiah. But the fact that they asked John the Baptist two different questions said to me that they're looking for two different people. And that's why in the last days, that, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, that there is a false Antichrist and a false, a true Antichrist, antithesis of Christ, but a false prophet. And just like Yeshua is always pointing to his Father, the false prophet's always pointing to the Antichrist.
Antichrist, right.
So, and you want to talk about like convincing so much that even the elect could be deceived. Imagine this dude shows up and he says, "You want proof? Here's my ID card." He pulls out the Shroud of Turin, right? Check it for yourself.
Exactly. Yeah.
So my thought was, you try to play Frankenstein essentially to the Son of God, it's not going to turn out good. And it's so strange. I was just telling somebody this story the other day that back in the late 90s when I was pitching this in early 2000s, I was going back and forth to LA trying to get studios to bite on it and pitching to studios and all this stuff. And I think it was at the Kodak Theater that I had parked my car somewhere around there. And I pulled out of this parking garage and I turned to my left and there was a dumpster right there. And somebody had spray painted on the dumpster, "Clone Jesus" in yellow spray paint. And I was like, whoa, because I was literally in LA pitching a script about cloning Jesus, and I looked to my left, and there's a sign of somebody it's painted on the side of a dumpster, "Clone Jesus." I'm like, wow. So I wouldn't be surprised if somebody out there, has already done it or is going to attempt to do it.
Right. Yeah, I can totally see that premise as well. And like I said, my friend Dr. Joy, she's written several books and described this exact scenario. She believes that the elites are going to try to pull that trick just to give credit to the Antichrist,
right?
Cloning him from the Shroud of Turin, or cloning his body, giving him that physical being to, having the likeness of the Messiah.
Yeah, you'd create a shell, that has the same physical attributes, but clearly it's not going to be inhabited by the nefesh of Yahuwah,
Right.
The spirit of God in him is not going to be. So that would be very dangerous. But it's so amazing to me, going back to the stone thing, that like all these things seem to be, intertwined and related somehow. And they go back throughout history. I mean, people can do their own research for themselves and see these things showing up all over the place. And like we talked about in a previous show, what if, Excalibur is actually spun off of either the staff, the rod of power, or the sword of Methuselah?
Right. Yeah, I do think it's, connected to the rod of wonder because of the story of, and also you read Ruel. Ruel is Jethro, the father-in-law of, because it mentions him in the as part of the Midianites, but Ruel is Jethro. He served under Pharaoh as Ruel. but he took the name Jethro when he ran and, was trying to hide himself and keep himself secretive. And when Moshe went there, he was able to pull out this sapphire stick, which was embedded in the ground, and then that's when Zipporah, the eldest daughter of Ruel, was given to Moses to wife, and then he received the garments as well together with the rod of wonder.
So, much later, we have, like, I've been watching the TV series Vikings, and so much of the Viking lore and everything, that comes much later. It's AD, after Christ. Right. And you have the various Norse deities and the mythologies surrounding them and things like that. It makes you wonder if, maybe somebody had the staff and they put a, iron block on the end of it to make Thor's hammer or something, because it has the same idea, right? That it has this power, but only Thor, or the person with a pure heart, as their mythology would have it, and can lift it,
Right. And, it's a supernatural item, a very special relic, and it has to have continuance throughout history in probably manner and form, which we are not associating because, we don't understand those links. But certainly this has been an object that has influenced humanity and, even the authority of who ruled as king, whether they were a seed of the woman and the seed of the serpent, as I cover in great detail within that book, The Vestures of Light and the Rod of Wonder, tracking the history of all of this from Adam to Moshe. And then there's even mention of it in the story of David and Goliath, which I didn't realize, there was a question somebody had asked me about, when we were at the conference, about how the staff was incorporated. And I didn't think that it was. And when I went and read the story again, actually it does mention David having this possession of this staff.
Really?
Yeah. And and there's also in the one of the things that Louis Ginsburg had written about the garments of power and also the rod of wonder, he mentions David as having this staff at that time as well. And so we do see that it was also passed down during the time of the kings, and that Josiah also had possession of the garments and the staff. And so there was a continuation of its being passed on. Even Solomon is mentioned as having been bequeathed these particular relics. And but again, with regard to scripture, I don't find anything after, and just in the legends, in some of the mentions of commentary and footnotes, you find mention of how the later history of these particular relics, but nothing within the actual scriptural passages about and connecting and relating these items as being part of those particular dynasties.
It's fascinating.
But without a doubt, Revelation 19:13, it is connected to the vestures dipped in blood and the rod of iron, which Yahushua will return and reign and rule over the world with.
Well, yeah, I've heard you say, about and I didn't get a chance to follow. I'm glad you brought that up, because I didn't get a chance to follow up on our last show, because you were referring to the rod of iron that Revelation talks about. But I thought it was sapphire, and I thought it was a tree branch from the tree of life. So
right.
How is it, or is it encoded in iron, or what's the deal? Why all these descriptions?
I'm not sure. Now, with regard to being made of iron, I just know that it's as strong as iron. Yeah. And so the emphasis or the association would make sense to me. And then again, because of the connections with how Christ gave these to Adam when he was banished from paradise. And we see from the legends of the patriarchs and the prophets that it was on the 1st of Tishri, that Adam was cast forth from paradise, and that it was also, both you and I believe that, he was born on that particular date as well. And that in the second coming, it's mentioned that he will return on Yom Teruah, and that when the 7th trumpet sounded, that this is where the rapture of the church, the catching away, will happen before the wrath of God is poured out on the wicked. And so the connections of the end from the beginning, the Alpha and Omega, Adam and Christ, and his Christ being cited as being the second Adam, and how he redeemed the first, and that restored him to paradise, restored him to his first estate. The story has continuation, and these relics also have continuation from the end to from the beginning to the end. And that, Revelation 19:13, I believe, is the fulfillment, the prophetic fulfillment of what will be the end use and end case use of these relics.
Well, I mean, any good story, they teach you this in like script writing or storytelling courses. Like you establish everything up front, for a payoff later. So like specifically, in pretty much any movie, if they just introduce you to a character that seems random, it's not, they don't just put people in there and pay actors to be a random character. There's usually a reason for it. Or if they make a reference to an object or something, there's a reason. It's called foreshadowing. They're setting you up for the payoff later. So
yes,
Yahuwah is the greatest storyteller of all time.
Exactly.
And
exactly.
As I started to come off of the sort of the more modern traditional Hal Lindsey ish view of end times, and went more of a I don't want to say biblical, because I believe he was doing, and others like him were doing the best they can interpreting scripture, where he would look at the locust, for instance, and the way they describe about the bottomless pit and say, well, that, that could be an Apache helicopter with a, shark teeth painted on the front of it. Right. How else? His argument would be, how else would a first century writer describe a Cobra helicopter, an Apache or something? And, back in the 80s, I'm reading that, and I'm in the Army, and I'm looking out on the flight line at the Cobra helicopters that literally have shark teeth painted on the front of them. And I watch the Cobras and the helicopters and stuff taking off, and I'm reading Revelation with the glasses of Hal Lindsey. And I'm going, I can see that, But when I started, in more recent years, coming off of that page and just taking the Bible, literally what it says and taking it at a face value, I'm going, well, then it makes much more sense to me, the stuff that so in other words, now I'm not thinking of America in last days prophecy. I'm not trying to switch names around, Babylon still means Babylon. You know what I mean? The Babylon was written about in scripture is the same Babylon that's going to be in the last days. Now there will be nations that will operate in the spirit of Babylon, and in my first book, Babylon Rising, I was saying if Babylon in the Middle East rises to be, a repeat of the biblical Babylon, it's only going to happen because of our help. So, and it's rather poetic, maybe you could say, that looking at the Iraqi currency, the Iraqi dinar, it has all the Iraqi stuff on the front of it, and on the back, it's all, American English stuff, So, I was looking at it like, well, that just shows America's backing Babylon, like literally there in the currency. But so I started to think, well, especially when you read Isaiah 46:10, the scriptures like that, where it says he declared the end from the beginning, and where Paul is referring to the Torah, and he said these things happened to them to serve as examples for us, upon whom the ends of the ages have come. It's like, well, then he set the stage with all of the characters that you need to understand in the first 5 books, and like the whole rest of the movie that is the Bible plays out with regard to those characters in the first 5 books and to include, after biblical times, our times, where it's all coming back. It's all the same. Like Yeshua
Right.
on the road to Emmaus, it says that he's talking with these guys that don't recognize him in the end of the Gospel of Luke, and he says, he began with Moses to explain to them who he was, and
Mhm.
Paul's doing the same thing in the end of the book of Acts. He's rented a house, and he says he's beginning with Moses to explain who Yeshua was. So, like, we can't truly understand who Yeshua was without the foundation. That's why we're doing such an in-depth study of Genesis.
Right. Yeah.
So, I mean, everything from the human ancestry that led to Yeshua to the people that he would call his own, and why we have to get grafted into that people group, Romans chapter 7 through 11, all of that's there. And then when you flash forward 2,000 years from the time of the New Testament to where we are today, all of that stuff has been foreshadowing for a big payoff in the climax of the movie, which will be the tribulation period, being the end of Act 2 in a 3-act play. The Act 2 always looks like the good guys. There's no way out. It's it's horrible. Then you get Act 3.
Yes. All that thought. All right, we'll be right back for a final segment, everyone.
Discover the extraordinary powers of intuitive healing with pain transmutation, a method of holistic healing for the human soul, body, mind, and emotions. If you are looking for answers and a deep understanding of how to help yourself and the people around you to live a happier, healthier life, this is the right place for you. Learn how to read your soul's history in the Akashic Records. Remove negative energy attachments from your astral body, and start the process of inner and outer pain transmutation. Join Pain Transmutation Community to get started on the path of intuitive healing. Change your energetic state, manifest new and exciting experiences, re-energize your life, and build inspiring connections with others in our community.
Okay, nurse, let's get this man to the ER stat.
Right away, doctor.
We see this every day. Heart attack or angina pain due to blocked and clogged arteries. Chelation can remove obstructions or blockages from arteries and help avoid painful and expensive surgery. Now there's Angioprim. It's a liquid oral chelation product that you take with juice. You start to feel the results fast. Angioprim increases blood flow all over the body, and that means more energy and strength to take on the day with less aches and pains. 60 years of research has gone into chelation, and Angioprim is the result. A safe and easy way to unblock your veins and arteries from buildup that slow circulation.
Paging Dr. Jones. Please report to the emergency room right away.
Log on now for a special radio offer from Angioprim. That's angioprim.com/radio. ANGIOPRIM. Angioprim.com/radio, or call 877-882-7221. That's 877-882-7221.
Hey everyone, it's Mark Sargent from Strange World, broadcasting live every Tuesday evening, 10 to 12 Eastern, 7 to 9 Pacific, right here on True Frequency Radio. Strange World covers a wide range of topics, from enclosed world theory to lunar waves to the end of the world in film. It's basically doomsday with a silver lining. With the audience as my co-host, we take an optimistic approach to all things conspiracy and promote confidence, hope, and humor whenever possible. If there's a topic you want us to cover or a guest you would like to see interviewed, please email me at msargent23@comcast.net. So please join me and tell your friends about Truth Frequency Radio, the leader in real radio programming, bringing you quality, cutting-edge broadcasts from around the world.
No hate, no hype, no fear. We are TFR Frequency Radio.
All right, welcome back everybody for a final segment. The show, as always, is passing quickly. But let me turn it back over to you, Rob. You were making commentary.
Yeah, I pretty much wrapped up before we went to break, but just saying that, any good movie script or story in general sets everything up. In Act 1, you're introduced to all the characters and all the motivations and the central theme of the plot. Then something happens to one of the main characters that sends him on a different journey than he was on to begin with, and that's enters Act 2, which is the longest part of the story. And Act 2 always ends with the hero in a terrible situation that looks like there's no way out. It's game over until something happens that radically changes the course of events, and you have the shortest act typically is the resolution in the end. So looking at the Bible that way really helped me a lot. As I studied to be a filmmaker, and I study all this stuff about writing stories and how that works. And I'm going, well, it actually looks like Yahuwah's done that, and he's told us that. Amos 3:7, he doesn't do anything without telling his prophets first. So whatever he's going to do, he's told the prophets, and he tells one of the prophets, if you want to know the end, I've declared it from the beginning. Okay. And then one of his apostles says, yeah, same thing. These things happen to them to serve as examples for us. So, and when you take off the modern eschatological glasses that most of us were given in churchianity and approach the Bible that way, you see it much, much differently, and everything becomes, at least in my mind, a lot clearer. And very quickly I realized that, wow, Exodus and Revelation's just an amped up repeat of Exodus with the exact same plagues and everything, just amped up. And then you get the book of Numbers, and Numbers is like a play-by-play roadmap for the tribulation period, So I don't know how we got on all this from where we are in the Torah portion, not the Genesis portion, but such as the rabbit trails we do. But anyway, I guess maybe all that to say, maybe from this scone stone thing, that maybe all of these artifacts that some of which, like you were pointing out, go back to the garden, go back to Adam, come full circle, all the way back around. And that's why various people throughout antiquity, having some knowledge of this, have desired to acquire these things and possess them and use them.
Right. Yeah, I do agree. I just want to read that passage that I keep mentioning so that people will see the connection. But Revelation 19:13, it says, "And he was clothed with a vesture dipped in blood." And this, again, I believe is associated to the coat of many colors that was given to Joseph. And his name is called the Word of God. And the armies which were in heaven followed him upon white horses, clothed in fine linen, white and clean. And out of his mouth goeth a sharp sword, that with it he should smite the nations. And he shall rule them with a rod of iron, and he treadeth the winepress of the fierceness and the wrath of Almighty God. And he hath on his vesture and on his thigh a name written, King of Kings and Lord of Lords. And so I do believe this is the fulfillment of what is the prophecy and the history of the vestures of light, or the garments of power, and the rod of wonder, the staff of God.
It's one of these things, like the Bible is a living book. I mean, you can read the same thing 100 times and not see something, and then one day it just pops out at you, or you see something different than you saw before. Like, I guess I just always assumed that he comes clothed in white, and that his vesture becomes soaked with blood because he's wiping people out at the Battle of Armageddon. I guess is sort of the way I've always said it, but that's not what it says right here. Go figure, right? It says verse 11. "And I saw heaven open, behold, a white horse, and he sat upon him was called Faithful and True. In righteousness he doth judge and make war. His eyes were a flame of fire, and on his head were many crowns, and he had a name written that no man knew but he himself. And he was clothed with a vesture dipped in blood." This is like heaven has just opened here. He hasn't yet touched down. So I never noticed that until literally just now. He's just departed to heaven, wearing the vesture that's already dipped in blood.
Yes.
And by the way, next verse is the armies which were in heaven followed behind him on white horses. That The pre-tribbers think that's us. We get raptured out before all the events of Revelation. By the time we get here, we're following him on white horses. I'm like, first of all, since when is a bride an army? Bride is never in the army. Number one. Number two, the armies of heaven are the hosts of heaven, and the hosts of heaven are the stars of heaven.
Right.
So
right.
The stars are hosts, and hosts are armies. That's not us. This is
right.
This is the stars of heaven, I believe. Or when the sky dome opens, the stars of heaven are going to follow in behind him in formation.
Right.
With whatever other armies were up there beyond the dome. But I didn't notice until you just pointed it out that he's leaving heaven wearing the garment that's already dipped in blood. Wow.
Yes. Right. And again, when you track down the history of the garments of power and you learn of its connections to the story of Joseph and how his brothers, killed the kid and dipped his coat of many colors in the blood, that's the association, the connection with the return of the Messiah, wearing these same garments. So.
And he shall rule them with a rod of iron.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. That's some interesting stuff. I mean, it goes back to, is this something new here that's just being dropped on us, or is this the payoff of what is foreshadowed going all the way back to Genesis? And I think you're making the case that these are artifacts that have been foreshadowed for us going all the way back to Genesis.
Right. And it even says that they were made before the foundations of the world, but given to Adam when he was cast forth from paradise, when he took on mortal form. In the day that you eat thereof, you shall die. And so when he was placed under the authority of death, he was removed from paradise, because that's the place of the righteous and the place of the immortals, and then placed here on the earth with the other devils and demons that had already been cast out and also placed under the authority of death. They have a 7,000 year duration, until the second death for them.
Wow. Fascinating stuff, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so.
I had a thought, but it came and went. So seems to happen more and more these days. I don't know why. Well, I guess we could go back to Genesis 27 then. See what
sounds good
comes up next. I'm making a note for myself here to put in the description so we don't get lost next time around.
Yeah, good idea.
Okay, so Genesis 27. And it came to pass that when Isaac was old and his eyes were dim, so that he could not see, he called Esau, his eldest son, and said unto him, My son. And he said unto him, Behold, here am I. And he said, Behold, now I am old. I know not the day of my death. Now therefore take, I pray thee, thy weapons, thy quiver, and thy bow, and go out to the field, and take me some venison, and make me savory meat, such as I love, and bring it to me that I may eat, that my soul may bless thee before I die. And Rebekah heard when Isaac spake to Esau his son, and Esau went to the field to hunt for venison and to bring it. And Rebekah spake unto Jacob her son, saying, Behold, I heard thy father speak unto Esau thy brother, saying, Bring me venison and make me savory meat, that I may eat and bless thee before the Lord before my death. Now therefore, my son, obey my voice according to that which I command thee. Go now to the flock and fetch me from thence 2 good kids of the goats, and I will make them savory meat for thy father, such as he loveth. And thou shalt bring it to thy father, that he may eat, and that he may bless thee before his death. And Jacob said to Rebekah his mother, Behold, Esau my brother is a hairy man, and I am a smooth man. My father peradventure will feel me, and I shall seem to him a deceiver, and I shall bring a curse upon me, and not a blessing. And his mother said unto him, Bring upon me be thy curse, my son. Only obey my voice, and go fetch me them. And he went and fetched and brought them to his father, to his mother, and his mother made savory meat, such as his father loved. And Rebekah took goodly raiment of her eldest son Esau, which were with her in the house, and put them upon Jacob her younger son. And she put the skins of the kids of the goats upon his hands and upon the smooth of his neck. And she gave the savory meat and the bread which she had prepared into the hand of her son Jacob. And he came to his father and said, My father. And he said, Here am I. Who art thou, my son? And Jacob said unto his father, I am Esau, thy firstborn. I have done according as thou badest me. Arise, I pray thee, sit and eat of my venison, that thy soul may bless me. And Isaac said unto his son, How is it thou hast found it so quickly, my son? And he said, Because the Lord thy God brought it to me. And Isaac said unto Jacob, Come near, I pray thee, that I may feel thee, my son, whether thou be my very son Esau or not. And Jacob went near unto Isaac his father, and he felt him, and said, The voice is Jacob's voice, but the hands are the hands of Esau. And he discerned him not, because his hands were hairy as his brother Esau's hands. So he blessed him. And he said, Art thou my very son Esau? And he said, I am. And he said, Bring it near to me, and I will eat of my son's venison, and my soul bless thee. And he brought it near to him, and he did eat. And he brought him wine, and he drank. And his father Isaac said unto him, Come near now, and kiss me, my son. And he came near and kissed him, and he smelt the smell of his raiment, and blessed him, and said, See, the smell of my son is as the smell of a field which the Lord hath blessed. Therefore God give thee the dew of heaven, and the fatness of the earth, and plenty of corn and wine. Let people serve thee, and nations bow down to thee. Be Lord over thy brethren, and let thy mother's sons bow down to thee. Cursed be everyone that curses thee, and blessed be he that blesses thee. And it came to pass, as soon as Isaac had made an end of blessing Jacob, and Jacob was yet scarce gone out from the presence of Isaac his father, that Esau his brother came in from his hunting. And he also had made savory meat, and brought it unto his father, and said unto his father, Let my father arise, and eat of his son's venison, that thy soul may bless me. And Isaac his father said unto him, Who art thou? And he said, I am thy son, thy firstborn, Esau. And Isaac trembled very exceedingly, and said, Who? Where is he that hath taken venison, and brought it to me, and have eaten of all before thou camest, and have blessed him? Yea, he shall be blessed. And when Esau heard the words of his father, he cried with a great and exceeding bitter cry, and said unto his father, Bless me, even me also, O my father. And he said, Thy brother came with subtlety, and hath taken away thy blessing. And he said, Is not he rightly named Jacob? For he hath supplanted me these 2 times. He took away my birthright, and behold, now he hath taken away my blessing. And he said, Hast thou not reserved a blessing for me? And Isaac answered and said unto Esau, Behold, I have made him thy lord, and all his brethren have I given to him for servants, and with corn and wine have I sustained him. And what shall I do now unto thee, my son? And Esau said unto his father, Hast thou but one blessing, my father? Bless me, even me also, O my father. And Esau lifted up his voice and wept. And Isaac his father answered and said unto him, Behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth, and the dew of heaven from above. And by thy sword shalt thou live, and shalt serve thy brother. And it shall come to pass, when thou shalt have the dominion, that thou shalt break his yoke from off thy neck. And Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing wherewith his father blessed him. And Esau said in his heart, The days of mourning for my father are at hand. Then will I slay my brother Jacob. And these words of Esau, her elder son, were told to Rebekah, and she sent and called Jacob her younger son, and said unto him, Behold, thy brother Esau, as touching thee, doth comfort himself, purposing to kill thee. Now therefore, my son, obey my voice. Arise, flee thou to Laban my brother, to Haran, and tarry with him a few days, until thy brother's fury turn away, until thy brother's anger turn away from thee, and he forget that which thou hast done to him. Then I will send and fetch thee from thence. Why should I be deprived also of you both in one day? And Rebekah said to Isaac, I am weary of my life because of the daughters of Heth. If Jacob take a wife of the daughters of Heth, such as these which are of the daughters of the land, what good shall my life do me? Interesting story there. And it shows that words really mean things, especially in those days. It's like, in our days, we're like, what's the big deal? Just give him another blessing, right? It's like, so what?
Mm-hmm, right, yeah.
So you said this to your brother. Who cares? So tell me something else. That there was something. I mean, it's almost like there's a supernatural aspect to it that once that blessing goes out, it can't be withdrawn and it can't be contradicted.
Right. Or passed on to somebody else.
Yeah. And I would point out that this is the point where Jacob's trouble begins. When Jeremiah wrote of the last days, he said it is even as the time of Jacob's trouble. And Jeremiah didn't write this in the context of Hal Lindsey, Tom Horn, or anybody else that, out there talking about modern eschatological terms. He was writing in the context of the Torah. So the only frame of reference that Jeremiah would have had for the time of Jacob's trouble would have been whatever is written about in the Torah, as would his listening audience. Because the Torah, I maintain, the 5 books of Moses were the Bible of the people in the Bible. And so that's why the prophets are always referring back to it. So if that be the case, we see later on in the text, after Jacob finally has his time with Laban completed, he says like 2 or 3 times, he said, these 20 years have I been with you, and you've been jacking my wages. I wanted Leah, and you gave me, I wanted Rachel, you gave me, all this stuff. And he repeatedly says, that this time of his affliction lasted 20 years. So again, coming off of the old page of looking at scripture through modern lenses, going back to, well, he's declared the end from the beginning. So yes, the tribulation period we read about in Revelation, there's 2 3.5 year periods, in my opinion, that are described there. Some say it's 1, I think it's 2. So I subscribe to the 7-year tribulation period. But whatever the case may be, whether it's 3.5 or 7, both are within the 20, according to Jeremiah. So I don't think of the last days in terms of 1 year, 3.5 years, or 7 years. I think in terms of the last days as being 20 years, with the last 7 and the last 3.5 getting progressively worse, within that time period.
Yeah. Well, again, it would make sense to me that, it does make mention of, this in Scripture as well. And we see always a repeat, same as in the days of Noah, so certainly the things that happen in the early part of the story of the patriarchs and the prophets and even the nation of Israel seem to repeat later on in history as well. And so in some manner, the themes and the concepts that are interwoven into Scripture do have a way of circulating and coming back around in the latter days.
This is he must have been one seriously hairy dude for them to right. And they were working pretty quick. She's like, go out there and kill the goat or lambs or whatever. He was out there killing 2 kids of the goats. Okay, go out and kill 2 kids of the goats. So he goes out and kills them. She's preparing the meat and skinning them and everything. And it's just, oh yeah, just put that on and, be a hairy Esau to your father.
Yeah.
That, I had a goat once, and, that's it's a very coarse hair. And I mean, for that to pass for Esau must have been like Bigfoot or something, man. Like,
yeah, right.
Dude.
Yeah, it seems to mention him as such, hair all over his body, like a wolfman.
Yeah.
Type.
Well, that's an interesting thought. What if he was like, I'm not talking necessarily lycanthropy, but that there was like was it Barnum and Bailey circus? They had the dog man. There's some kind of genetic disorder that makes you. I mean, even your whole face is covered. It's not just a beard. Your whole face is hair.
Right.
Hair everywhere. That maybe the Esau was something like that.
Yeah, it could very well be. There are still, people that have that genetic disposition in this day and age. And so, certainly it was enough that it's mentioned over and over and over in different parallel accounts about him. So,
yeah, and it says it's verse 16. She put the skins of the kids of the goats upon his hands and upon the smooth of his neck. So I can assume that that's like, coming off the back of his neck or whatever, like, he had a hairy back, because he's wearing garments. She puts garments on him that she went to Esau's closet, or whatever, wardrobe, and pulled out some of his clothes that smelled like the field. So
that was the garments of power.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, because it mentions it in the Targum that the clothes that she gave him were the garments of power that Esau had brought and hid, and Rebekah had seen, being vigilant and watching for his return. She had seen where he had placed them, and so she gave them.
You want to read that? About 10 minutes? Or do you have?
I don't know if it's in this part. I can just read the next chapter, and it might be in that.
Okay.
But it's in my book, and I'll definitely have it ready for the next one. But I'll read this chapter, and I think it is mentioned in there. I'll just skip to 27 where that chapter is. Okay.
The Targum version of Genesis 27.
Yeah, Genesis 27. All right. And it was when Isaac was old and his eyes were darkened from seeing, because when his father was binding him, he had seen the throne of glory, and from that time his eyes had begun to darken, that he called Esau his elder son on the 14th of Nisan, and said to him, My son, behold, this night they on high praise the Lord of the world, and the treasures of the dew are opened in it. And he said, Behold, I am. And he said, Behold, now I am old, I know not the day of my death, but now take thy weapons, thy quiver and thy bow, and go forth into the field, and take me venison, and make me food, such as I love, and bring to me, and I will eat, that my soul may bless thee ere I die. And Rebekah heard by the Holy Spirit, as Isaac spake with Esau his son. And Esau went to the field to take venison to bring it. And Rebekah spake to Jacob her son, saying, Behold, this night those on high praise the Lord of the world, and the treasures of the dew are opened in it. And I have heard thy father speaking with Esau thy brother, saying, Bring me venison and make me food, and I will bless thee in the presence of the Lord before I die. And now, my son, receive from me what I command thee. Go now to the house of the flock. Take from me thence 2 fat kids of the goats, and for the Pascha, and 1 for the oblation of the feast. And I will make of them food for thy father, such as he loveth. And thou shalt carry to thy father, and he will eat, that he may bless thee before his death. And because Jacob was afraid to sin, fearing lest his father might curse him, he said, Behold, Esau my brother is a hairy man, and I am a smooth man. Perhaps my father will feel me, and I shall be in his eyes like one who derideth him, and bring upon me a curse and not a blessing. And she said, If with blessing he bless thee, they shall be upon thee and upon thy sons. And if with curses he should curse thee, they shall be upon me and upon my soul. Therefore receive from me, and go and take for me. And he went and took and brought to his mother, and his mother made food such as his father loved. And Rebekah took the pleasant vestments of Esau, whose elder son, which had formerly been Adam's. See,
wow.
So it was the garments of power.
Wow.
But which that day Esau had not worn, but they remained with her in the house. And with them she dressed Jacob her younger son, and the skins of the kids she laid upon his hands, and the smooth parts of his neck. And the food and the bread she had made, she set in the hand of Jacob her son. And he entered unto his father and said, My father. And he said, Behold me, who art thou, my son? And Jacob said to his father, I am Esau thy firstborn. I have done as thou spakest with me. Arise now, sit and eat of my venison, that thy soul may bless me. And Isaac said to his son, What is that thou hast found so soon, my son? And he said, Because the Lord thy God hath prepared it before me. And Isaac said to Jacob, Come near now, and I will feel thee, my son, whether thou be my son Esau or not. And Jacob drew near to Isaac his father, who touched him and said, This voice is the voice of Jacob. Nevertheless, the feeling of the hands is as the feeling of the hands of Esau. But he recognized him not, because his hands were hairy, as the hands of Esau his brother. And he blessed him, and he said, But art thou my son Esau? And he said, I am. And he said, draw near, and I will eat of my son's venison, that my soul may bless thee. And he approached him, and he ate, and he had no wine. But an angel prepared it for him, from the wine which had been kept in the grapes from the day of the beginning of the world. And he gave it into Jacob's hand. And Jacob brought it to his father, and he drank. And Isaac his father said, draw near now, and kiss me, my son. And Jacob drew near and kissed him. Well, we'll pick it up next week.
All right. Another awesome show,
But
man.
at least I was able to catch that part. Yeah, good show, brother.
Very cool.
All right. Until next week. God bless all.
Take care.
Good night.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us for this video and this broadcast. We appreciate all of you and thank you for your patronage. Please do like and subscribe and share with your friends. God bless all of you in your seeking.